Hello? Can
Hello,
anybody hear
Jan.
me?
I can hear
Hello?
you. Can you hear us?
Yes, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. We're just waiting for some of the other people to come in, but so far we have Kimberly, Tanya, and myself. Hi, Jan. Hey, Charlie. Couldn't hear you, Charlie. Can you?
Hi there. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
I'll find it.
Hi, Paul.
I think you're muted, Paul.
Think you're muted, Paul.
Maybe I'm better off muted.
Well, we love your voice. We're waiting on Chris and Lenny. Lenny's always late. He's gonna be on Zoom today. So.
Chris is usually early.
Yeah, he is. Who wants the Land Rover?
Not me.
Nice looking. Somebody that works in it. Not bringing in any Land Rovers, huh? Jaguar, Land Rovers, BMWs, Audis, Volkswagen, they're not importing anymore. Yeah. No, they're gonna wait and see what happens. Wait. They're gonna have to. Kind of half-ass backwards. Hard to. Minimize by watching the news. I know, there's so much to study about. Yeah, it is.
Is Chris on Zoom or waiting for him? Supposed to.
Waiting for him in person. Lenny's gonna come on Zoom.
Must be a traffic jam someplace. A lot of traffic in Belgrade these days.
Snowing.
It is snowing.
It's snowing?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Again?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Just a
It's
smidge,
just wet.
kind of like.
I'm gonna say
rain.
it's not very severe.
Oh,
Doesn't even really count.
It does count though. Sun's not out.
Want me to text Chris?
That's Lenny.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear you.
Lenny.
Oh, okay, I couldn't hear anybody. It's so
Yeah.
quiet.
Yes, we're just waiting for Chris.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Janet, is that a real background? Is that where you are?
Yeah, California looks like this.
Wow. Nice. Her gardens.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
So lush.
What part of California?
Berkeley.
Oh, really? I'm gonna be out there in a couple of weeks.
I should be back in a couple of weeks.
When do you come back?
The 22nd, I fly into Boston, stay a week, and then I'll be back.
No, I go out the 29th.
Well, that's just, there you go. We're even here.
When is our next meeting?
Hello, Chris. Yeah. Okay, we'll just wait on it. Yeah, yeah. He's on his way.
Should we start the meeting and at least approve minutes or something to make a little progress?
Yeah, yeah, we don't. Chris is on his way, but I think we've got a recommendation from Kimberly to at least address the minutes. We can do that. Has everybody had a chance to read the March 11th minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions or?
I thought that they were great, very succinct. Thank you.
Paul, I personally, I like this. It really gets down to what we really talked about, improve rather than who said what over the course of an hour.
Yeah.
So
I
like it.
it
AI was a huge help.
Yes.
I'm all for it.
Great.
Took
I
about,
think it's perfect, because it really gives us an idea, like when you mention the action items, it goes down the list of 5 and I think it was very helpful, so do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Unanimous. Yes, we won't vote now, but I'll just kind of go over the next item of new business will be voting on the chair, vice chair, and secretary. Our bylaws call us that, which we should determine a meeting time for the coming year. is the first item of business. So, right now, we've got 3:30.
I think that sounds good.
Does that still work for everybody?
Works for me.
Paul,
The
did you
first
feel that?
Tuesday of the month.
It
What's
just
that?
doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me in the winter because I'm in California and the time distance is 3 hours. But what I've decided is when it's an important meeting, like I feel like today is, I get my daughter to do my job. But if we could make it a little earlier, it makes it easier for me, but it might make it harder for everyone else.
I think you're right, because some people, have to push it toward the afternoon time. I remember there was a discussion last time, people didn't want it 3, they wanted it 3:30 or 4. We made a kind of compromise
Gotta
of
split the
3:30,
difference. Yeah.
just so, and then, now we're down to 1 meeting a month. It's gonna be, it won't be as hectic as it has, over the last 6 or 7 months.
I say we keep it the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to remember now.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote, Pat, or? can we
Yeah.
just-
Let's just vote on this. We've got a quorum
Okay.
available.
I move that we keep the meeting at 3:30 on Tuesdays, once a month.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Unanimous?
It's just the time, not the date. I mean, we're still keeping it a second Tuesday, right?
Second Tuesday, yes.
So Pat, I believe I saw the email that you replied to as far as what roles you've played during this.
Yeah.
So does that, what I came down to is that we need a new chair this year, or do we need a new chair next year? Is this it's like your third consecutive? Is that how the rules
This would
work?
be I'm not sure exactly how to handle this because it was the Lakes Committee.
Right.
Which had a charter. We moved it to a new charter with the Lakes and Natural Resources Committee. So is that
That's when it started.
so it kind of would start with that new
I
charter.
think so.
I would think so.
So,
Would you have one more year then?
yes.
Oh, good.
And next year we'll get a different charter, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So,
Are you willing to chair for us one more year, Pat?
I think, it's wise to have this position move around, so if anybody would like it, I won't be,
Yeah, it's good for having consistency too.
so if anybody would like to do it, I'll be fine with it.
No, we're nominating you.
Okay.
Lenny, do you have any interest in moving up to chair?
I'm sorry.
I talked to Chris about it, he would rather stay, he's got his hands full now with his position,
Yeah.
running the,
I kind of think it would be nice to have you continue as chair as until we get through this
yes,
process that we're doing, but
Yeah. we can vote on that now. All those in favor? I'm willing to sit as chair for another year.
Great.
Someone has to make a motion.
I make a motion.
I second it.
Me too.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Great.
That was easy.
Yeah. Lenny, you've done you're always available and you've done a great job as vice chair, especially with your written work and helping us with pull all this together. Do you have a willingness to remain as vice chair?
I'm willing to, if anyone else would like to be, there's really very little to do in the job, as you know. I'm more than happy to pass it on to someone else if they'd like to do that, but I can stay in as vice chair if you wish.
Well, one question I have is usually, is there any precedent that vice chair is likely to succeed to chair? I mean, that's often done in certain organizations.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have no intention of moving up to chair after this year. Let's make that clear. I've got a whole lot to do with my own lake association. So, and and I'm on the executive committee of of Seven Lakes Alliance, which takes some time as well. So I don't really want to be chair here. So if someone else is interested perhaps in moving up to chair of this committee, then, and, you know, and would like to be
And-
vice chair, please.
In terms of taking responsibility, I would, but because I cannot be at the winter meetings, I don't feel like I can accept anything.
Yeah, it's somebody who would have to be, the chair of this committee should be here year round,
Right.
I think.
I think
Yay.
vice chair could be just as Jenna, you could do it on Zoom, you know, for the times you're away after next year, if you wanted to be serve as vice chair. It's we're used to working with Zoom now, so.
Yeah, but, okay, but my problem is this. I pick up my granddaughter exactly like a half an hour into the meeting. So it's not like I can even be on Zoom. I'm gonna, knowing that our meetings are gonna be at this time though, maybe I'll try to arrange once a month to have
Yeah.
someone else get her.
Yeah, and plus, this is a year away.
Right,
No.
okay.
It's not today.
She might have
So,
her driver's license by then.
yeah, so we've got, Letty is approved as vice chair.
Yes.
Secretary,
Yes.
Paul, this may be the big job.
He's so good at
You're
it.
so good at it, and it's,
He's getting great at it.
Yeah.
are
He
you
doesn't
willing
even
to?
have to do anything now.
You've got AI now.
continue?
Well, I guess I've sealed my own fate by you guys accepting my AI.
Yeah.
So you allow
Great.
so AI just listens to the recording and then goes ahead and writes it up? Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
That's a good, I like that technology.
Right.
I hope
Well-
they're on, and I don't see AI, maybe they're not here today. Oh, I think it's being, I don't know.
it's being recorded.
They got laid off.
I'm
by
recording
Joe.
it, but I don't see that, you had an icon before AI, I don't know if it's,
What
That's
operating
funny.
system do you use for AI?
AI companion is on here. I don't know what that means, but all right, we'll,
AI companion?
but I don't honor AI. It's supposed to be on here.
I don't see it.
Hmm. I might have to suspend
Remote.
myself here. Let me make sure I can get it on. Hold on. All right, well, I'm gonna hold up the meeting.
So do we have a motion for,
I motion that we vote to have Paul remain our secretary.
I second it.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Yeah,
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
you're welcome.
Stop this meeting.
No, I didn't get slapped for speeding, but I thought I might.
We just got the approve the chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Approve the minutes.
Changes. So
Great, I'm glad I wasn't here.
we all agreed you're doing way more than enough, so
Yeah.
we didn't want to
Yeah.
slip anything more on the plate. Paul, I don't see that icon for,
I just put it on. It's supposed to be, this autopilot is working on joining the meeting. I hope it will.
yeah,
But I had a $90 subscription that I got rid of, and I went down on $15, so I don't have to, may have to pay $90 a month for this. It's ridiculous. But,
90 a month? Whoa.
so I'm trying to work on the $15 one.
Oh, we're worth more than 15 a month. Come on.
Are you worth 90?
Oh, well, I'm not sure about that.
My time is worth that.
There we go. Paul's
Here you're on, yeah.
Otter. Otter?
Okay,
It's like
great, great.
It's like another person.
Yeah, okay, I got an
Wow.
audit, so that, we're all right, we're all set then.
Excellent.
I apologize for being late, everybody.
We're gonna dock your pay.
Yeah, thank you.
you were here just in time.
I was completely absorbed with something else. So, Have you approved the minutes?
You approve the minutes and the slate of officers, chair. our
You've been
name.
elected chair.
Yeah. Give you all three.
I'll be leaving early if that's the case, but,
So we're,
okay, so, should we start on the,
yeah,
thing? So, I wanted to address, well, Jana had some concerns, with this that, I thought we would, get into right away. So Jana, you were saying that, your impression was the recovery buffer is less than the DEP requirements, normal requirements, which I think, we would agree with. There are no trees which are important, point system's too hard to follow. And I just have a note that we need to change DEP, which I don't think anybody, disagrees with, but that would be a different scope than, we have in front of us. Any other comments on that, Jana?
I thought perhaps, what if we just said at the end of this that you follow the DEP's rules? Then we don't have to say anything. It doesn't conflict with anything. But after 3 feet, you resort to the DEP rules. Whether people follow it or not, they've been doing it or not as they please. But that puts us not in conflict with them and gets us starting a recovery buffer.
I'm sorry, my hearing is poor and I wasn't quite getting the gist of, what you're advocating.
So I'm just saying that since we can't be in conflict with DEP anyway, why don't we just add on to our ordinance suggestion that after 3 feet, you follow the DEP's regs?
After,
The first 3 feet.
What does that mean?
Where
The
does-
first
Where does
3
the
feet?
3 feet come from?
So that, in other words, we're saying you grow a buffer to be 3 feet,
Okay, the height, I'm sorry.
right? I'm not sure exactly how to word this, but from what I'm understanding is it's going to be a problem if we conflict with DEP. Plus, I feel like it's a good idea to have trees, and we don't want to discourage people to have trees. But I think if we talk about a recovery buffer or the way we have, people will be interested in it. And then they resort to the rules of the DEP, which yes, are complicated. We don't want to rewrite them, but there they are. And people can follow them or not as they have. We can't control that.
It's not DEP rules, is it?
Yes,
No, it's the state.
I mean, it's the
Shoreline
state,
zoning, it's a state chapter 1000, right?
yes, the O section.
chapter 15.
so the, chapter 1000, requires that you meet the minimum standards set forth in chapter 1000. And the issue that we have here, well, we got a couple of things. One, if we tell people that they enforce them to grow trees in their recovery buffer after it expires in 15 or 20 years, then, by strict interpretation of the DEP's, laws, then trees would grow up and potentially block their view, which would be, really problematic for people, I think. People buy a property, they like the view and there's a lawn running down the lake, but they like that view and all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but over time, that view goes away potentially, not in all instances, but in many. And so you're left with the DEP, chapter 1000 minimum of using the point system to cull out some trees that, to bring you to the minimum, but I think the minimum of the DEP standards would still block your view. And, that's the law. We're not able to write something in the ordinance that is conversational or advice or says, do what you wanna do or whatever. We're stuck with writing an ordinance that is enforceable and will pass the planning board and the select board and the voters and DEP. I guess, what I would suggest is that, I can meet with Colin Clark from DEP and say that, the Belgrade's what Cam Ferrante had talked to him about, and how can we work together and get through something that, yes, Janet, it wouldn't be as good as the DEP standards, but it would be a whole heck of a lot better than a lawn, I think. I mean, I think we would all agree with that. And that it would be a hybrid between DEP standards and the lawn, you know, the grandfathered situation. And right now, if somebody wants to build an addition or whatever, they can do it even though they have a lawn running down the lake. So we would be, so I would propose that myself and others, if they're interested, meet with Colin Clark and say, you know, what can we do to make a change to our shoreline zoning ordinance that would help the water quality, and how can the DEP basically change to permit us to do this? I mean, that's.
I would love to do that. I don't know when you're doing it. I'll be back home in 3 weeks. But I would love to do that. The other thing is there is a slight difference, and that is when you have control of your restorative buffer, you can control where the trees are. So you can allow trees to grow that are not in your view. Or
Yes,
that don't block, that
absolutely,
frame.
absolutely, but we have to write an ordinance that provides for people to maintain their view. And I don't think we're gonna write in the ordinance that if the property owner so chooses, they can let trees grow. I mean, that I think is outside of this effort. We can educate people, we can go to them and say, yeah, why don't you let some trees grow in your buffer? I mean, that's something that the lake associations should probably be doing, don't you think?
I think education will be an important part of this as we go along. But I also think talking with the DEP and figuring out something is a great idea.
That's what I was gonna discuss. What do other people think about this whole topic?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think,
Yes, Paul.
I think that we have to work this out with DEP before we go. Certainly before it gets voted on. The last thing I want to do is have something voted in and then DEP changes it. We're gonna have to go back to the town. That's totally not acceptable to me.
No,
Agreed.
I agree with you, Paul, and I think that it would be very helpful for us to go to the planning board saying we've already worked out a deal with DEP, we've written the language, we've got this all squared away, and we think it makes perfect sense. And then, you know, then we have momentum. And hopefully they would get on board with us and not fight us tooth and nail. So, yeah, because if we don't do that, then they're gonna say, well, DEP won't like this, or this doesn't work, or whatever. So I think if we've got it as squared away as possible, then we'll be in a much better position.
They won't have as many excuses.
Yeah.
And I think you'll, go ahead, Charlie.
I have just two quick questions. One is, who made the edits to the document, the proposed changes? And the second question is, how was it, what was the logic of allowing saplings to be cut down to the ground rather than to a height of 3 feet?
Okay, so the first question, who did the edits? Well, Cam Ferrante is a municipal lawyer with Freddie Flaherty, I think it is. And he wrote this, and he and I went back and forth, and I think I don't have those edits on my copy, because they didn't print, but yeah, we went to him with a bunch, and then he, thank you. And then he, made changes and, yeah, so that's all him writing it and changing it a little bit. So, does that answer your question on who? it
Yeah, no,
was?
I think it reads well in general, so I was just curious how that process developed. And the second question?
Yeah, so the second question is, so you've got this tree that grows up and, you know, say it's a white pine and it grows up to 3 feet and it starts to grow up above 3 feet and it starts to block your view. So that's the issue I think we're trying to provide for, is that people who have a lawn, now they have this white pine growing in the middle of their view. And if they cut it off at 3 feet or whatever level and they top it, then, you know, then it starts trying to become a shrub, which a white pine isn't gonna wanna do, or a aspen or a birch or a oak or whatever, tree that volunteered itself, to grow there. So the thought is that without removing the roots, you can cut it down to ground level. And, so you can have blueberry bushes and shrubs and all sorts of things that are gonna grow 3, 4, 5 feet up or whatever. If you like to have trees, then they can grow up and don't cut them, but the thought was to make it legal to cut those down to the ground. Cause we've all seen properties where people are using them like a hedge, and I don't know, we thought that a tree was a definable thing and that a tree could be cut down to the ground. What do you think on that, Charlie?
I think once it's established, that if you were to cut it to the ground, that might conflict with the 3-foot rule that DEP has. So I think once you require a buffer, that buffer has to be reasonably intact up to a height of 3 feet. And that whatever grows there, you know, technically speaking. But that would be something to maybe clarify with DEP.
Yeah, man, this is going to be different. This violates DEP rules in probably a few situations. So yeah, man, I don't know if they have a 3-foot rule. They definitely have the point system. And
They do have a
have
3-foot rule, pretty much, you know, if you have an intact, you know, shoreline, let's say, you know, of 100 feet, you're allowed to trim bushes, hedges, whatever, to a height of 3 feet to have a view. And then you're allowed to, as you know, cut the bottom third of established trees, again, for a view. So, so once you require a buffer, I think you have to let it grow to a height of 3 feet, period. And then you maintain your view, and some of those things might be, you know, pine trees growing sideways and anyway, so I think within that you may be able to plant, you know, blueberry bushes and other, you know, bushes that you happen to like. I don't think it would, you know, keep you from doing that, but I think that's the sort of the intent of the DEP rule, and shoreland zoning is to let it grow a, you know, a thick buffer of, you know, 3 feet high. But I think it's good to clarify that detail. I think you know, to Jana's point, you don't want to conflict with DEP rules.
I don't think you should cut the trees down to the ground, do you?
You don't think you should cut the trees? So what do you gonna say? You have a birch and it's growing up over 3 feet or yeah, a white birch. What are you gonna do with it when it gets up and starts blocking your view?
Well, you just cut it at 3 feet if you care about the view.
Well, isn't it gonna kill the birch pretty much?
I think it's going to kill it anyway. So it's, you know, but that's, you know, part of establishing a buffer is to have a diverse, you know, vegetation.
I think that we should not include this provision. because as a practical matter, it's not, people are gonna do what they're gonna do, and
Right.
it's not enforceable, and we're only getting into trouble with DEP by highlighting this.
Yeah,
And people are gonna like, I mean, trimming down a tree that's 3 feet high, people are gonna do it anyway, or not.
This is true. That's what
So,
they are.
and anybody that's spending today what a value of the property on a shorefront is, you know, I have not seen hardly any enforcement for trees being cut down because they're for a view. I mean, it just happens.
I mean, they might
somehow.
just do it in spite of us because of the rule.
Yeah, I think we eliminate it.
Yeah, I mean, little saplings like that, people will just take them down without the second thought. They probably get
And
cut
then
before they're 3 feet high. They'll get cut when they're about 18 inches.
Yeah, I think we're asking for trouble to even get into it.
so you're saying eliminate that statement. I agree.
So
That's what
Jan
they-
has been, advising people on Messalonsky that they can maintain the view by cutting stuff that grows up. And Hans says you can't cut anything. That's his interpretation. And we sort of went back and forth on this and I think that we determined that you really weren't supposed to cut anything on an existing buffer. Lawn, you can mow it. So I guess I think if we try to force people to put in a legitimate DEP allowable buffer, meaning you can't cut anything, you have to stop mowing your lawn between, minimum of 30 feet, 30%, maximum of 30 feet. I think that we're gonna have a hard time getting that passed by the planning board, because they're gonna say, no, that's gonna block people's views, and they don't want that. So, we've tried to create a framework, which we've discussed over and over again, that, this new thing called a recovery buffer, would solve the issue. And now, I guess I'd like to get DEP's feedback on whether we can come up with a new thing called a recovery buffer that doesn't, it's not in their current 1,000. Let's see what their feedback is.
That's certainly reasonable. Let's see what they have to say.
It also, if they come up with some solution, we could say they back us. And we can go to the planning department with their backing. I think let's definitely next steps, talk to the DEP.
Yeah, I think.
I'm happy,
Go ahead, sorry.
and I'm happy to join if it's feasible for me to do that.
I think they'll be happy with, any move in, a reasonable direction. And I think as long as I kind of agree with Paul, just be mute on talking about removing any vegetation to the ground, because, it's our understanding that you can trim to 3 feet in height. And I think just say that and assume it's for all vegetation and not be specific about whether it's a sapling or a piece of grass. It's, and that way the view's maintained, which should take care of the planning board.
Can we have a vote on what Charlie's proposing?
Yes,
And I
Please.
guess I need to understand it better.
Yeah, what is the proposal?
I do not accept, Charlie, I'm sorry, I need to go home and do some homework to figure out whether you're allowed to cut things to 3 feet. I think if you have a wooded tree line, you have to comply with the point system and trimming the lower third. And I don't know about cutting things down to 3 feet. I don't know that you can do that, or, I'd have to look and see that in the, but, so,
That's it.
so,
I think that's I think that's apples and oranges. I think a wooded tree line's an established buffer, and so that different rules apply. This is specific to the recovery buffer where you're allowed to maintain it at 3 feet. If somebody doesn't maintain it and it ends up growing into trees, then they're stuck with maintaining trees, and that's, that's ideal. But we're not asking people to make that big leap all at once.
there is no such thing as a recovery buffer in the DEP.
Right.
Chapter 1000, that's something we invented. So we're not modifying an existing, feature of their ordinance, their minimum ordinance, we came up with recovery buffer. Lenny still doesn't like the name, but.
Well, sorry.
But he's gonna have to roll over on that one. So Charlie, there is no such thing as a recovery buffer. We're trying to invent a new thing where you take a lawn running down to the water and you force the landowner, in turn for granting them a permit, to make a modification, a significant change to their property, such as a garage or an addition or a deck or something like that, that in turn we want them to protect the lake by establishing this new thing called a recovery buffer, which Cam has defined in the language. He's got it as a definition, recovery buffer. So that doesn't, those edits are edits on his language. He didn't take the recovery buffer that exists in the ordinance. There is no such thing as a recovery buffer. So we're establishing that, and we're saying that you can cut over 3 feet and you can cut saplings down to the ground when they get over 3 feet as a new concept. It should enable bushes. I mean, we're not talking about cutting shrubs to the ground or bushes. We're just saying a tree, which I think is a definable thing, and cutting that down to the ground, but leaving the roots. So you get this nice, and you're free to let trees grow up if you want to do that. We would encourage that through education, but we're going to have a situation where a landowner that paid $2 million for a view gets to maintain that. And, so does that make sense to you, Charlie?
It does. I just don't think that you need to have that language about cutting it to the ground. I think everything else works and is consistent. But I think what a couple people were saying makes sense to me, that being mute on, what you can cut is fine, and just say that within this recovered buffer, you're allowed to maintain a view by trimming it at 3 feet, and leaving it at that, I think, is sufficient. But I do think clarifying that with DEP, I think the question to clarify with DEP is, once established, is it subject to DEP regulation? My guess is it is. Even though the establishment process is outside of DEP's way of doing things, once it is established within a 30-foot, area along the lake, is it subject to DEP jurisdiction at that point? I'm guessing it is, but that's an important thing to clarify with Colin or somebody else there.
Well, it's subject to the point system, is what you're saying.
Or the 3-foot rule, which I think does exist despite what Hans says.
I agree with you, Charlie,
I
on
agree.
that rule.
You think, have you found the rule? In the existing ordinance, is there a 3-foot rule?
Yes,
What page
What's
you
it
on?
say?
for purpose of this section 1502B, other natural vegetation is defined as retaining existing vegetation under 3 feet.
under 3 feet.
right, 3 feet. Can't go. It's gotta, you can't cut it, I view that as, you go to 3 feet, that's the existing vegetation.
I think
Going-
Paul's right that people are gonna do what they're gonna do, and if you've got a nice buffer and they take out a couple of trees, nobody's gonna know the difference. But I think highlighting it is, and creating different rules for different kinds of vegetation is, problematic.
And I
So-
agree.
And I
If
agree,
we
I think we should vote
So,
on,
so what is the harm in me going to DEP and putting this forward and seeing if they'll accept for, this? And then having a negotiation point that we can compromise on? What's the danger, why do people not want to start out with a stronger negotiating position?
I don't think there's any reason not to do that.
What's that?
I said, I don't think there's any reason not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I'm hearing Charlie and Jenna and Paul say, don't do it, take it out. And I'd
Because
like to
you're-
see, I'd like to see what
Okay.
DEP says.
Well, I think we should see what DEP says, but I think it's important to present both points of view. Because the point of view of highlighting trees as something to cut down is not what we really want to be doing. I think by being mute on this topic, we're not highlighting it as an issue, and therefore we're not encouraging it. People will do what they will do, there's no doubt, but we don't want to be encouraging people to cut trees down to the ground.
why should we raise that? I mean, maybe you raise it in the
Right.
context of the planning board. If the planning board says there's a view problem, we can say we've struggled with it and we've decided that we can't go against DEP. I mean,
Why can't I talk to DEP about it?
I think it's good
guess-
to talk to DEP, and I think that again, for me, the key thing is, once established, is it now subject to DEP jurisdiction? And that's an important point for the planning board to understand, I think, as well as us.
well, it is. You agree,
I'm
Charlie?
assuming it will be, but I'll let them say so.
Oh, okay. And just a point, Chris, what is the process that you are proposing with regard to DEP? Because your lawyer says that he'd like to reach out to Colin Clark and discuss it with him without giving specifics, because he and I have a good relationship. He may be willing to give me his opinion and whether DEP would be willing to accept this. Is that what you're relying on, is to have Colin and his reputation Cam talk to Colin?
Cam already talked to Colin and ran this past him, and I don't have the email in front of me, but, Colin said that
We should do it.
no, he said that, it would violate the chapter 1000, as Cam presented it. But he liked that we were trying to figure out a way to, safeguard water quality, and that, he thought that they could work with us, or, maybe they could figure out a way to get around it. So I just felt that, and I will talk to Cam first and get a sense from him, a better sense than he put in the email that I shared with everybody, because I haven't talked to Cam about this. I will talk to him and say, what do you think? And then, I would think that I could then go to Colin and say, can we sit down and meet on this?
Okay, well-
And then see what he says.
In support of what you're saying, what you wrote to us, I'm just saying, we love to see, I guess, Colin said, we love to see things like this added in the SLZ and hopes to bring back better buffers in those areas with lawns to the water. So I'm sure we can make this happen to be in compliance with all the standards. And then Cam says, this suggests that DEP is willing to work with the town to develop some type of workaround that might permit a permanent recovery buffer without triggering the cutting standards. So I guess fine. We're going around in circles.
Well,
Yeah,
it
so-
sounds like the DEP is, it sounds like the DEP is willing and interested to talk to us as
Yeah.
a starting point.
Yeah, it sounds like it,
Why not
and,
do that?
you know, then it would be interesting to find out what are the dynamics of getting their approval, what, you know, what do they need? Do they like it as Cam has written, and, or do they need some other change to it, and how does that work with the hierarchy at DEP to get that approval, and, yeah, so hopefully, I can talk to Cam and I talk to Colin, excuse me, and come up with a direction that they feel, the DEP feels good about it, and see what our next step is, with them. And then, once we get that kind of squared away, then I would say we go before the planning board and say, this is where we are with this, and we've had the language written by a municipal lawyer, and we've talked to DEP, and they're okay with it, and we would like you guys to approve it. And I mean,
I think we're all agreed on that. I think we all agree about that. Definitely next step before the DEP.
good,
So moved.
okay. So, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, just questions about logistics. So, you're gonna talk to Cam and then set up a time to meet with Colin, the
Yes.
DEP person. Okay,
Colin Clark.
Colin Clark, thank you. Do you want to do that solo? Do you want other people to join you?
I'd be happy to have other people join me.
Okay.
I want to do it right away. Are you interested in?
I'm interested in doing it.
So,
Well, I think that we need to keep moving.
yeah,
As soon as
absolutely.
possible, get it going.
What's that?
I'd say go right soon as you can.
Yeah.
No, it's, so,
And where is the DEP?
Augusta,
Assume that-
Yeah, I go too.
sure, so we, yeah, that'd be helpful, yeah, so I will talk to Cam and then I'll get back to you guys and.
Sounds great.
and determine how to move forward with that, that sounds great.
I'm interested if I can come, so depending on the dates, I'll be back after the 25th or something.
Yeah, I'd like to get this done because getting my hip replaced on the 28th, so I'd like to,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, this is the last joint, I'm thinking.
It's the last one.
Both knees and one hip are done, this is the last one I need, so we're not talking about shoulders, so, so anyway, yeah, I'd like to get this kind of, squared away, within the next couple of weeks.
It's really snowing hard.
It is. Good,
Sounds good. Anything else to talk about tonight?
I don't know, that's the thing, okay, so we can talk about, do we want to push this one forward solo? Or do we want to muck around with that other thing that's hanging out there, the notifying your
Oh, the
abutting
abutters.
landowners?
I think you should always have manners and tell your abutting landowner what you're doing.
Oh, well, okay,
But
should
expect
we write that into
manners,
the,
doesn't
yeah,
exactly
should we
work.
use manners in the ordinance? What do you think?
Yes. Yeah,
Good manners,
Good manners
good
would
fences
say-
make good neighbors, we
Exactly.
can reference
Well,
Robert
Didn't
Frost.
Hans mention that the state was considering or working on doing something about notifying abutters? Isn't that in the works?
I think that's with a
Permit by rule.
permit by
Oh,
rule.
okay.
Which, so, we have nobody's heard about the permit by rule notifying abutters yet, have they? Seemed like it was months away.
It's passed. Belgrade's actually,
They passed it?
Oh, they passed it.
Oh, who did?
Belgrade's actually using it.
So Belgrade is notifying abutters in what circumstance?
When you're doing a permit by rule
You have to get a special permit.
permit, you get 1,000 feet, you have to notify the butters within
They used to
1,000.
notify abutters if they were getting,
But this is permit by rule, we just did it at Seven Lakes for the annex down there to see if we could put a cement, they want to put a cement piers in, so they gotta rip apart part of it. So that was a permit by rule, they got the permit by rule from DEP, but part of that process is
Notifying,
they notified all the.
so that's a new thing, huh?
thing.
and what power do the abutters have?
Just notification.
notification.
But they can go and appear
They
before,
could probably, if they,
yeah.
you know,
Sure,
Yeah.
Pat, but Pat, are you saying that when you say you said 1,000 feet, right? So that
1,000 feet.
even properties that are not abutters but are within 1,000 feet
Yes.
of the property, is that what it is?
that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yes, okay.
So it gives a wide view.
And that's typical of other
Yeah.
municipalities that.
Okay, that's, and you say that was in what we passed on the Friday night before town meeting?
This isn't a town regulation, this is state.
Oh, this is a state regulation. Oh, okay.
This is state, because they have that jurisdiction. You know,
Yeah, so our shoreline zoning ordinance, we were going to propose two changes. One was the one that passed, which was number one, which I can't remember what that was. Offhand, that was Hans like that when it was.
That was, if the property owners receive a PBR, they must also apply to the town of Belgrade
Right.
for a permit.
Right,
before-
yes.
yeah, that's the case here, there's no permit from Belgrade for that work. Yeah, that has to go to, you know, the town, you know, to review all the particulars. They just give you a permit by rule to do it. But it's contingent upon the town's planning board reviewing it, accepting it. It's like a two-step process.
So, yeah, so the second thing was we had proposed notifying just the butters that there is a permit issued by the town within the shoreline zone, and that was the planning board decided that they voted 3-2 in favor of it, and then they decided to withdraw it from the vote because they had
All the stiff work to do.
all the stiff legislation, litigation and all that they felt was critical, and it was all lumped together. It was supposed to be separate, but it wasn't, and so then they withdrew the abutting one. So that's still floating out there. Do we want to try to push that forward, or do we want to just focus on this and leave that alone for now?
I guess I'm leaning towards after seeing how other groups interact. Focusing just on this one at a time. Because I think that this will pass more easily. I mean, once we meet with DEP, et cetera. And I think the abutters issue is gonna send a couple people just, you know, over.
Still gets them
Yeah,
all
Yeah.
jazzed up, and we don't know how they're gonna react to this.
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
my
so-
thought.
I would agree with that.
I agree with both of you that
yeah.
we've been distracting from what is a major issue, the buffer. When we bring up this notice to us, to abutters, we don't want, it's like the recovery, the buffer is so much more important. We just should focus on that.
It is, I agree.
Yeah.
That and you know, septic is meaningful as well, so those are probably the top ones. I think that notifying the butters is important because it gets your community paying attention to what's going on, and I mean, y'all have said several times, people will do what people will do, and that is true. I will not disagree with that, but it doesn't make it right, and you know, I think people,
Well, yeah.
you know, if it, like, this whole issue came up because of the people that did what they wanted to do and put in a lawn on 142 Woodland Camp Drive, so we didn't like that. That was a bad thing.
It's just a point of information. What was passed by town meeting regarding, anything that we suggested passed?
He just mentioned the thing that the requirement that when you get a permit by rule from the state, you also have to apply to the town to get a permit.
No, that was a state
Passed.
rule. That was DEP. That wasn't us.
No,
No.
no,
This was us.
That was a
That was
modification to the shoreline zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
And it was the first one in our hierarchy
Change number one.
of changes. It was number one.
Mhm.
And that was, That was voted on unanimously by the planning board and the select board.
Yeah.
And was passed by the voters. And I would assume that DEP, even though they wouldn't have. a
What was it
problem.
again? Can you tell me what it was? I'm sorry. I missed it.
Yeah, it's in section 14, property owners receiving a Maine Department of Environmental Protection permit by rule must also apply for a town of Belgrade permit before undertaking the project. The Belgrade Code Enforcement Officer shall review the permit application and in order for the project to proceed, determine if a permit is required to be issued by either the code enforcement officer or the planning board. That is what we wrote, what they ended up, and actually, I do have their language is in here now, landowners, yeah, so it's,
Pretty close.
shall provide a copy of that permit to the CEO before work.
But wasn't there a DEP rule we just were talking about?
Yes, there is.
That's,
Two
it sort of
different
tracks
things.
the same thing?
They're
No.
apples and oranges,
Two
no.
separate issues.
Yeah, two separate things. The DEP is now requiring the notification of people within 1,000 feet of a permit by rule. They're requiring that notification. That's a different thing. That's a state of Maine, not a Belgrade thing. This other one, of the CEO reviewing the permit by rule, that's a separate thing that's passed. And then the thing that we.
Okay,
had
gotcha,
put-
gotcha.
Change that we put forward, was, removed from, the vote, even though it narrowly passed the planning board.
Thank you for the
You're welcome.
clarification.
It's very confusing. So, okay, so we would push this forward. We know what to do. We've got our marching orders. That's it.
I think, big steps,
Yes, it is a big
big
step,
step. And
and I will report back. And Tanya and Kimberly will be there to ram it through. Push it through. It'll be that tush push, just like the Philadelphia Eagles do so well.
do we have
I
any
think they're
more?
planning, I think the NFL is going to make that illegal, so.
Yeah, it should, it's like a joke now.
I guess, I never noticed that they were the only ones that were
I
really.
think they
good at it.
voted not to make it illegal.
Oh, is that right? Did they? I hadn't
Yeah.
heard. I heard that was up for
It
consideration.
was up for grabs, but I think they lost.
Okay.
We'll see.
Any more new business? Seeing none, will we have a motion to adjourn?
I'd so move.
So
I'm opposed. No, it's too early. We have to keep up.
Another half an hour.
Just
All
kidding.
those in
Just
favor?
kidding.
Say aye.
Okay, Lenny, you stay here, Lenny.
You know what I'm going to do, Chris? Just for you, I'm going to continue sitting here at my computer. I promise.
Thank you, I appreciate that so much.
Okay, very good. Just for you. Just for you. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
It's done early.
Yes.
Good night, folks.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you, Charlie, for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you.